to Book 101 is all about the books that are read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is a media consultant, copywriter, and agency founder, no other than Miss Nadja Sayej.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Book 101, Miss Nadia. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
So, I'm here to tell you any and every behind the scenes story that you want to hear about. Being a journalist for 15 years, interviewing celebrities, traveling the world, living in Europe for 9 years, and now based in New York City, where I've brushed shoulders with some of the biggest stars and written 8 books about this type of thing. And hopefully, I have a little bit of wisdom to share.
Indeed. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and knowledge to the world, Miss Nadia. Thank you so much. How has the rise of social media platforms fundamentally altered the way journalists approach storytelling and audience engagement?
Absolutely. I mean, when I started out as a journalist, I mean, it was so long ago. It really dates me. It makes me feel quite ancient, but also, 2003, this was the time before Instagram. This was a time, even before digital editions of publications. Now, you know, it was like to think about it, that 2017 was a long time ago, which was when I think around the time a New York Times article talked about the death of celebrity journalism and the rise of social media. Think about it. If a celebrity or a public figure can control their public narrative with their social media account, whether it's with their Photoshop filters or whether it's setting the story straight about a scandal or whether it's showing behind the scenes into their life, what is the purpose and the role of a journalist anymore?
Indeed. So, can you tell us about your red carpet hole? What is all about?
So, this is one of the 2 books that I decided to bring in for this conversation. This was a book that I released in 2022, and it was the 100-year anniversary of the red carpet. Not a lot of people know that there actually was a 100-year anniversary of the red carpet. The red carpet did start in LA, that is true, and it still happens in LA like anywhere else, but now it's traveled to all over the world. But when you're a journalist, you go on the red carpet, but you're standing on the other side. Nobody sees you, but you hold up a microphone and you hold up a camera and you capture these moments, fleeting moments on the red carpet with the stars. So that's what's really in this book, behind the scenes moments of the stars, whether I've had a chance to speak with them before or after. Here's Kanye West. He was on a yacht painted silver, um, you know, with gospel singers in Miami in 2019 before he went, haywire. And like having dinner with him was quite the experience. And then there's John Waters, in New York City before he was mobbed by fans. Margaret Crowley. So there's all these people that I've had the chance to meet. And they are special people, but at the end of the day, they're just people like us.
Indeed. What do you see the biggest challenges to rebuilding a public trust in journalism today, and how can media outlets address them?
You know what? I really feel like the future of the media is podcasting because the interview has evolved from a one-sided thing to a two-sided conversation. And the best way to develop the public trust is to really just be honest and be yourself. People want to know that people are real, and that includes journalists as well. The traditional media outlets are not held in the same high regard as they were before, which is unfortunate. But there's other forms of media that are now taking over, which is good. Personally, I love the olden days when you could, go out and buy a copy of Vanity Fair and read a 4,000 word feature, you know, written by Gay Talese, who still writes books, by the way. But this old, you know, new journalism era, which what they called it, is something that unfortunately is long gone. And that's
Yes.
why my latest book, it's a photo book, with captions because we live in this Instagram society where people just want to flip through a book and see pictures and read the captions because that's all they have time to do.
Yes, indeed. So tell us about getting your shit together, what it's all about.
Oh my God, I think that was my first book that I published um, in 2010. I just, I went to art school. I have a BFA, Bachelor in Fine Arts. And something that we didn't have at the time when I graduated in 2002 or three is business skills. A lot of artists need to know how to promote themselves. It's more than just marketing, it's self promotion. Not everybody can afford a PR agency. You have to know how to keep the ball rolling yourself. And it's more than just that. It's, how to price your work correctly and how to increase it, how to negotiate, and how to network, how to have sharp elbows, when the time is right, how to ask for introductions, you know. So rather than, and then, I received, criticism from artists saying, all I have time for is to make art in my studio. All I have time for is to write. And it's like, yeah, but, if you apply creativity to the business side of your art, wonderful things will happen too.
Wonderful happen for sure.
Yeah.
And Miss Nadia, as AI tools like ChatGPT reshape content creation, what ethical dilemmas do you foresee in balancing automation with journalistic integrity?
That's a really good question. I think that AI tools are helpful, but as far as I know, in my relationship or with editors, they don't want writers using AI at all. Something that it's good for behind the scenes is taking, let's say, a 10-page press release and
Yes.
condensing it. You know what I mean? And trying
Yeah.
to get to the gist of something faster. Like, listen, I want the Coles Note version. Again, it goes back to the impatience. People don't have time anymore. Everybody wants Coles Notes, everything nowadays, which could be good or could be bad. And so using chat gpt these and AI to summarize things is great, but to actually use it to publish things, I mean, it's dangerous because on Google it sort of pushes down AI produced content. And nothing really beats the written word, but I must say that a lot of these AI platforms, from Google Gemini to others, they're very sophisticated.
Very well said, Miss Nadia. Very beautifully articulated.
Thank you very much. Book 101, here we are.
Yes. And Miss Nadia, how can media organizations resist the lure of click-driven revenue models while still prioritizing in-depth quality reporting?
It's also a good question because something that we see, for example, let's say page six, there's a celebrity publication, same with the Daily Mail. We're really dependent on
Yes.
clickbait based on
Mm.
the headlines. Are these headlines true? I don't fully know, but a lot of it is bait, and having that integrity to not resort to that is, I don't know. That's a really perplexing question because does the media have an option anymore to not have to go that route? They're so desperate for subscribers, newsletter signups, monthly hits. They're under so much pressure for that becomes more of an importance rather than, just telling a good story, which is why I think a lot of writers are going to Substack,
Yes,
right?
for sure.
Yeah.
So the celebrity interview book, can you tell us about it?
So I released that when I was living in Berlin. And I thought, there's so many great people that I've interviewed. I just wanted to highlight my top 25 favorite interviews. And one of the interviews I have in there is with Alma Obama, who's Barack Obama's sister. And
Oh, wow.
she's not a celebrity, but she is fabulous. And
Indeed.
so, yeah, I got to meet her in real life, when I was living there, and she runs a foundation organization to help children learn diplomatic skills, which is very important, especially for young girls.
Yes.
And so, it was just about these memorable moments I've had. Who else is in the book? Jean Paul Gaultier, the French fashion designer, who's
Wow.
amazing.
Interesting.
And then David Lynch as well, who unfortunately passed away recently. And he was obsessed with meditation. He loved transcendental meditation. It changed his life. It's something he practiced every day. And it was something that he told everybody to do as well.
Interesting book, Miss Nadja, and thank you so much for sharing
Thank
this
you.
to the world. Hoping for more and more empowering books like this to come.
Yes.
How have your own views on the media's role in society shifted over your career, especially given recent technological disruptions?
So, I mean, what do you mean exactly?
Mean nowadays that we're having chat GPT, now we can do instant access media through social media. Is it affect your career as a journalist?
I mean, people consume news more on social media than anything else. So,
Yes.
as long as you're able to reach people through that way, then it's great. But if a story is genuinely good, it will spread like wildfire. But more and more, I feel like writers need to be more innovative and they need to be combining hybrid concepts. In order to really get noticed, but it has to come from a genuine place as well. It can't just be, this clickbait thing that we talked about. So, will the media ever go back to the authority that it was? I mean, I'm not so
Yes.
sure. I mean, I wish it would. I mean, there's, the New York Press Club, for example, is a group of amazing people. There's great writers who are nonfiction writers and who are long form journalistic writers who are radio hosts, TV hosts. But at the same time, we're all figuring out our own creative way to adjust to where the media landscape is going. And it's changing every day. So for myself, I started an agency so I can help other people. But then at the same time, I'm still able to write on the side because it's something I don't want to give up. And if I'm able to write one book a year, then that's a goal of mine.
Indeed. And Miss Nadia, can you tell us about this book? Can you pronounce the title?
I'm sorry to use a swear word on your show. I apologize, and I hope that this doesn't make it
Yes.
not safe for work or something. But Biennale Bitch is a book that I published in 2018, Adventures of an Arts Reporter. And it basically captures all of the years, the 8 or 9 years that I lived and worked in Europe. I was able to interview Salma Hayek in Venice at the Venice
Wow.
Biennale, which was incredible. I mean, she's even more beautiful in person. And when she sits down for an interview, she kicks off her heels and then she sits cross-legged. And she's like, "Okay, let's go." She's she
She's
is
hot.
she is such a sweet person in real life, but
Yes.
she is drop dead gorgeous. Like, I'm not even kidding you. But there's substance there too. I mean, she wants people to look beyond her looks and really get to the content. She was doing a performance art piece there, which was wild. So, it's I was able to travel a lot. Europe is so small, right? So when you get
Yes.
on a plane and you get from one country to another, it's like an hour. So I was able to go to all of these countries within the European Union and go to these world-class museums and biennales and triennales and documentas and really cover the art scene, but with this unique perspective where I'm not an academic. I don't come from this background of academia, which is,
Yes.
really runs this very serious art world. And I'm just trying to have fun with it and bring a comedic edge to it.
Do you think there's a follow up for this book?
Absolutely, 100%. This is what I'm known for the most, more than anything, is my arts journalism. Because I ran a YouTube show called Art Stars also for about 8 or 9 years. And, running an indie media outlet, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a YouTube show, whether it's your Substack, it requires a lot of love. It requires constant dedication. And there's days where you just want to give up, but
Yes.
it's really, really driven by passion. And, sometimes you just stumble upon these, opportunities and that it just gives you a sign to just keep going. And that's the powerful thing. It's all about if it will lead you to your next project. But the people that you meet along the way, I mean, there were so many trips that I spent so much money just, to not even break even. But it was worth it in the end because I was able to make a book out of it years later.
Looking for that follow up book, Miss Nadia. And you are
Yeah,
please come back on Book 101 Review and let's talk about it.
I can't
And
wait.
I can't wait. I myself, I can't wait.
Yes.
How can media outlets balance the demand for global reach with the need to stay relevant to local audiences?
I think they should always incorporate local audiences. I mean, when you run a publication, when you run a media outlet, you typically have an email address on your website where people can send you press releases where they can tell you about their upcoming projects. I mean, if a media outlet is based in a country or a city and it doesn't recognize their local talents, that's a huge problem. Most of them do. Most of them are aware, but that's something that you really have to go out of your way to recognize your local talents and, whether it's your local writers and photographers and hiring them for work as freelancers to recognizing your local authors. Like, let's say you're a writer and you're doing a book launch or a book signing, which is something that every writer should always make out time and effort to do, because even if 20 people come and show up, you might reach out to somebody new and you never know what that will go in the future. So doing things like that and reaching out to the media in advance so they can help publicize it and advertise it for you is a wonderful opportunity that should never be overlooked.
What would you tell to aspiring journalists entering the fields that both rapidly evolving and increasingly precious?
I would say always do what comes easy to you. For me, it was writing about art. Always do what's easy for you and then figure out a way to give it your own personal spin. If I learned anything in journalism school, it's that good writers talk like they write and write like they talk. That does
Yes.
not mean that you should put on an audio recorder and transcribe what you're saying as a book, because there's no easy way out of writing. And we know that. It's a
Yes.
very, very lonely job. But you just can't give up on it, even if there's not a possibility to make a full-time living at it, which is a very realistic thing, knowing of the climate that we live in today. Build yourself up as a media personality speaking on a certain topic and have as many outlets as you have time for. Whether you do want to put your face out there, whether you do want to interview people, or whether you are more of a columnist. But like for me to put a comedic spin on art writing was something that was not very common because it was so serious, because people are selling art for a lot of money and they want to know that it's an investment. But, I can also add value in different ways, and I'm not here to sell art. I'm here to just give my opinion, like an honest review. So, don't forget to be honest.
Yes. Honesty is the best policy, people.
Yes. But just don't
Mm.
get a lawsuit.
True. Miss Nadia, as a media consultant, copywriter, and agency founder, what are your short term and long term goals?
I mean, definitely I'm gonna have to do a follow-up book to Be an LA Bitch, 100%,
Yes.
because you said so. And, I just have this, like, huge archive of photos of all throughout the years that I really wanna make into another photo book. So that's definitely, some goals for me. I would like to do a podcast as well, but I think you have to have a really strong focus
Yes.
of what it is. It's not an easy thing to do, and you have to be very tax savvy, and there's a lot of things. But I mean, in terms of long-term goals, maybe I would like to buy a house one day and figure out somewhere where I can really settle down. So we will see. So the stability is definitely in the long-term future, and being creative and staying true to myself creatively is definitely something I hope that I will always have time for, because it's a huge privilege.
Indeed. Miss Nadia, where do you see the media landscape in a decade? More fragmented, consolidated, or transform in unexpected ways?
I would have to say it's probably gonna be transformed. It depends on the governments and where they're going, because if there's gonna be more dictatorships in the world, there's gonna be less media control and freedom. Unfortunately, that's what it comes down to.
Unfortunately.
But if we're gonna have more social media type things, I mean, is there gonna be AR? Is there gonna be, like it depends on how technology evolves, I think. I think that something like Instagram maybe will become extinct in 5 years. Maybe, how we consume media will be more TikTok like with 5-second videos. I always look to Gary Vee for these types of insights in terms of the future of technology. But I just hope, I hang on to these accounts where inspirational quotes are, timeless and always can speak to people and get to their hearts. So I think that no matter what format we have with media and how it's going to change in the future, as long as there's soul to it and that it touches other people's hearts, that's important.
That will be amazing.
I hope.
Again, beautifully articulated, Miss Nadia. Very well said. So before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and of course my book 101 review in fifth season, comedy 101 in second season, food 101 in its fifth season too, geography 101 and love letters in third season, and my baby podcast mental health 101, movie 101 review and music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Miss Nadia, looking back, what pivotal moment or project reaffirm your passion for journalism despite its challenges?
Definitely. And I'm impressed by your portfolio of podcasts. I've never seen anybody with so many podcasts in my life. So good for you. You
Thank
deserve an
you.
award. Okay.
Thank you so much.
So I have to say one thing. Whenever I interview a really, really famous person,
Yes.
sometimes I'm getting a little nervous. Okay.
Yeah.
But I always ask them the same question at the end of the interview. And that question is, what advice do you have for young artists today so they can succeed? And I've asked this question to Jerry Seinfeld, Salma Hayek, hundreds of actors and comedians, yeah, Jim Gaffigan, uh,
Yes.
Christina Ricci, and all of these. I think Christina actually had the best answer. She said, "Don't listen to me, listen to yourself, because many people will be telling you what to do, and it's completely irrelevant." And I loved that. I thought that was a
Yes.
wonderful answer, but it's always important to try and inject a little bit of wisdom and try and extract wisdom from people, because these people, let's face it, actors, the way it looks from the outside, they're rich and they're famous.
Yes.
They seem to have it all to us as the audience.
Yeah.
So, can they share a little bit of insight? So, maybe not a lot of people are asking them this, or, but I always try and squeeze it in, and they usually have a thoughtful answer. And a lot of these answers are in my books too.
Yes, indeed. Miss Nadja Sayej, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and knowledge to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support all your books as well as your company itself or your business itself?
Yeah, for sure. You can find me at artstars.agency, or you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Amazon at NADJA Hope to see you soon.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Nadja Sayej, because if you support her, more and more and more empowering books to come, more and more and more empowering business to come. So, Miss Nadja, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.